Welcome to the Nerds in Christ podcast, where we level up our faith by finding the gospel in our favorite fandoms. What is up, nerds? Welcome back to Nerds in Christ podcast. This is Mike, your homeschooled theologian. So today's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try to do kind of a new playlist, a new type of podcast where we talk to other nerd creators. Today we're going to talk to Master Samwise, who has a YouTube channel that I absolutely love. He dives into lots of different topics, lots of different characters, all about their virtue and like how we can be more like them. Love this guy. Really, really fun conversation. So I hope you enjoy. So anyway, this is going to be like the nerd life. This is going to be a testimony of Master Sam. So Sam, is Sam your name or is that just your online name?
No, my name is in fact Sam.
Well, what's your full name?
Samuel.
Samuel. Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. So Samuel, what would you rather me call you?
I go by Sam.
I'll call you Master. Okay. How about that? So, where did you grow up?
I don't really divulge too many personal details because I'm a private enough person despite being very online. Yeah. But suffice to say, I live in the Midwest of the U.S. And have my whole life. Went to school there a decent ways away from where I grew up, but so I currently live about 5 minutes from where I grew up my entire life.
For real? That is cool.
Yeah.
That's why I grew up in Florida, and I don't care. I post all this. I grew up in Florida and live in Kentucky now, so it's like way different. And whenever we moved, I was really into Tolkien. You ever read Redwall?
Oh, yep. Yeah, I haven't read too much, but at least.
So I was deep in my Redwall and my Tolkien, and we moved to Kentucky, and I was like, I'm going to have great adventures. This is going to be awesome. I didn't have any great adventures, but it was still fun. It was still fun. So what was your childhood like? Were you kind of a nerd growing up? Were you more into sports?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both and.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Still am. I'm an extremely nerdy person, but I'm also still very into sports. I love sports. I play beer league hockey on a regular basis.
Cool.
So we drink after the games, just so we're clear.
Of course. Yeah. Great. That would be awful to drink before and then play. That would be terrible.
It's gotta be puke all over the ice. Be gross. Yeah. But yeah, I grew up playing, baseball and soccer and skating and I love sports. I love being active. I thought I was going to play professional baseball when I grew up. I got disabused of that notion around 14, or probably earlier than that. But I found I wasn't even good enough to make the A team in high school. Right. But I was always a nerdy kid too. I mean, if I wasn't, in the basement dreaming up, hitting the walk-off homer in the World Series, I was fighting battles against Cal Sorks, reenacting the Last Alliance, or, I had my best friend at the time, now my brother-in-law, we had these little Lord of the Rings minifigures, like Games Workshop, people who made like 40K Warhammer. Like they still made these little, Lord of the Rings minifigures that you take out, you paint, and it's a whole, tabletop game, and we had those, and so I would play those countless hours, build Helm's Deep out of Legos and stuff, and so yeah, always been tremendously nerdy.
Yeah, dude, you played Legos. I did a lot of Legos myself.
Oh yeah,
and I was the weird kid that would like stage battles. I feel like you're the same way. Like build a castle, stage a battle, and then almost have like a chess match. I never rolled any dice, and it was always with myself. But I would like say these guys move this way, and then they flank over here, and then the archers come down. My parents were always like, "What are you doing?"
A story about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Cool. So, what do you want to talk about? I had some questions that I typed out. So who is your hero? Who's your main hero? Living, fantasy, whichever.
Well, this feels like a trap question that someone asked in Sunday school. Like, who's your hero, Johnny? The answer
There's only
Jesus.
one right answer. Yeah. Other than Jesus.
Sorry, before we go on that, there's a Sunday school joke that I've seen online. It's the Sunday school teacher asks the class, okay, kids, and I'm gonna describe something, and I want you to tell me what it is. Like it's gray, maybe brown. It's got fur and 4 legs and a very bushy tail. What is it? And they all sit there in silence for a while, and then finally a kid raises his hand. She goes, "Yes, Jimmy." He goes, I know the answer is Jesus, but man, it sounds like a squirrel.
That's
The answer is always
funny.
Jesus.
I love that.
But I mean, honestly, like my hero is my dad.
Really?
I grew up in a great, wonderful nuclear family. My dad
Yeah.
worked, my mom stayed home with the kids. And I know it like wasn't super easy. I was a kid, so I wasn't privy to all the ins and outs of our financial situation. And we were never
Mhm.
poor or or anything, not
Yeah.
remotely destitute. We had two cars and we had a, pretty comfortable life by any standards. But
Right.
I know they made sacrifices so that we could have that life. My
Hmm.
dad's still working, is nearly 70, and my mom's working now too. Went
Hmm.
back to teaching after all our kids are, out of high school.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like they and a lot of sacrifice. My dad worked really, really hard at, a job multiple jobs he did not like. Um, and
Preach.
he'd come home and he'd write like he did a lot of like research and legal research on like pro-life cases and
Wow.
he had to publish articles and stuff like that for like pro-life journals. Um, so just like yeah, he worked super hard for his family
Hmm.
at something he didn't like just because that was what he was supposed to do, and then he still found the time and energy to work on stuff that was meaningful, and I can't admire that enough.
Yeah, dude, your dad sounds like my hero too. That sounds awesome, man. Oh man, that's good stuff. So you had I guess we had similar growing up. Dad worked a bunch. Mom raised us I was homeschooled, so we were
I was too. I
were
forgot to
you
mention
really?
that, but
Dude,
yes, I
I
was.
knew I felt something between us. That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. That is awesome. Yeah, so how does that make you I believe a father, right? I feel like I've heard
Yeah, oh
you
yeah,
say
yep.
that.
Got three kids.
So you do too? Awesome, dude. I have three girls.
Nice.
But as seeing that growing up, how does that make your view, or what does that do for your view now that you're a father yourself?
It just wants me to. It just has. It gives me a model to which to aspire.
Right.
Right. It's just okay. I want to do that. Right.
Mhm.
If I can be as good a dad as my dad was, that's amazing.
Awesome.
Right. And like
Yeah.
that's kind of that's pretty much all there is to it. And my dad wasn't perfect. I know that. I admit that. There are times where I'm like, oh, dad's in a bad mood. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want my kids to feel that,
Hmm.
And it was never like that was just me being a very sensitive kid for the most part anyway.
Hmm.
Like dad's mad because something's broken in the house. He can't quite fix. He doesn't have time to fix it, but he's got to take me to baseball practice. And he took me to baseball practice.
Yeah.
Um, 'cause he took time away from the things that he had to do to like spend time with me, and it's like
Yeah.
oh. So there's so much out there. I'm like, there's so many sacrifices that a parent makes that the kids just don't see,
Yeah.
right? Even when you're a teenager, you're very capable of seeing. Of course, my
Right.
5-year-old doesn't recognize the sacrifices my wife and I make for him, but
Right.
once you get to that age, you're like, I get the feeling that, as a parent of a teenager, I know it's a frustrating time, but it's got to be frustrating to be like, I'm doing all this for you. You should recognize this now, but
Right.
I still think they don't. They're used to it, and so having that attitude of, all right, I'm going to keep working for you, keep being there for you, no matter what, even if you know you're being a typical teenager, even if you're
Right.
not recognizing it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's definitely something I aspire to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Same. I did have some, we had a falling out in the family, but we had good times growing up, and I strive very, very, very hard to, soon as I get home from work, have a deep breath in the truck and then go inside, because I know that first moment when you get home is everything. And
Hmm.
whenever you open that door and the kids run screaming and all running towards you, there's nothing better in the world than that, really.
Yeah.
Especially on a Friday when you've worked all week and it's just like I just want to fall out. Because I'm a technician, I'm a mechanic right now, and
Okay.
man, I get dog tired by the end of the week.
I
Okay,
believe it.
cool. So you said you moved back to where you grew up. Do you like go by anywhere that you kind of remember as a kid? Like that tree looks a lot smaller now than when I was a kid. That sort of stuff.
I don't know that I do. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of change around the neighborhood, where I grew up, but
Hmm.
um, things are different. But I don't know. Can't really say I have any feeling like that. I've been around this area my whole life, aside from
Yeah.
college when I was gone, 9 months out of the year. I never really left my metropolitan home.
Hmm.
Um, so I've just kind of grown up with it. It's not like I came back after a long absence.
Right, right.
Just kind of
Gotcha.
it's always been
Gotcha.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Cool, man. Okay, so what is your favorite fandom?
Oh, Lord of the Rings,
Lord of the Rings, hands down.
hands
Okay,
down,
what
hands
is
down.
what is your
Real question.
favorite, I guess, book in those?
Lord of the Rings.
No, I know, but like which one? Because you got the Silmarillion, the
It's one
Hobbit, the
book.
three.
It's one book.
It's
The Lord of the
technically
Rings.
six, isn't it?
It is technically six. It's one, but I don't have the copy with me now. I had it in college. I was lucky enough to be able to take a seminar on Lord of the Rings, and it is one book. I mean, one novel, as that's
Technically,
what
yeah.
Tolkien wanted to publish it.
Right.
Um, but I mean, probably, if I had to pick one of the three, as people, typically
Hmm.
understand them, I'd probably have to pick Return of the King because it's where everything really truly happens.
Right.
It's where my namesakes, Master Sam. I mean, the chapter is called "The Choices of Master Samwise."
Hmm.
Has his moment where he refuses the pull of the ring,
Hmm.
which is just the most wonderful moment
Oh, for
because,
sure.
like, you see, it's been described a couple of times how the ring tempts people in
Yeah.
it tempts them by taking the deepest desires of their heart. Right? Gandalf says, it would, promise me strength to protect the weak, right? Which is what he does. He's the guy who's always going with the hobbits and he wants to protect them. And we see it makes Boromir think of himself as a great man, a great leader. Galadriel describes, how she used it to do good, and that temptation that has. And of course, Sam,
Hmm.
it has him envision all of Mordor as a giant garden,
Hmm.
which is hilarious and endearing.
Yeah.
And then he says, "No, I need just my own garden,
Hmm.
right? My own hands to work the field, not the hands of others to command, something like that." And that's I think around the very beginning of the book. Um, but that's just where everything comes together. Aragorn comes into his own. The scene of him, just the description of him, arriving at Minas Tirith is, I think just incredible. Equally as good, honestly, as the ride of the Rohirrim, at the across the Pelennor Fields, which is some of the most beautiful prose I think anybody has ever written and ever will
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's it's a work of fiction I don't know can ever I don't know if it can ever be matched.
No, it can't. It totally can't. And Peter Jackson did great with the movies, but still, even that, it doesn't
Yeah.
match up.
Oh,
So, is it
they're
safe to say
spectacular.
then that Samwise is your favorite character in those
Oh,
books?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There are
So,
many, many wonderful characters, but
oh my
Samwise
gosh,
is
yes,
the
yes.
best.
I'm loving more and more Boromir and the video you did of Boromir. Oh my gosh. It
Mm.
literally at the end I was crying. I was like watching it on my lunch in my truck and I was literally crying. I was like, I gotta go back to work. It was so funny.
No,
It was so funny.
that's one of the
So,
characters that Jackson did an amazing job with, and
mhm,
he enriched the character
for sure. Yeah.
because the character is very he is a very noble character, if flawed in the books, but I think when Jackson added that scene, I think it's only in the extended edition of Boromir and Aragorn talking in Lothlorien,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Boromir telling Aragorn the centuries will say the lords of Minas Tirith have returned once again,
Hmm.
and you see because you're seeing Boromir warm to Aragorn, to the man to whom he had earlier said Gondor needs no king.
Yeah. I
um
think well, the way he phrases it was the men of Gondor have returned. So he's calling Aragorn Strider like we're both
yeah,
together. He's
yep,
calling him like a
yeah,
brother, basically. Such a cool
yeah.
scene. I love that scene.
So yeah, I absolutely, yeah, Boromir is probably the most human of the characters. There's so many
Yeah.
characters
Yeah.
that are larger than life in various ways, and
Hmm.
Boromir, because he falls, because he fails,
Hmm.
is one that we're like, okay, that would be me. That would be
He's
me
one of
if I
us.
got tempted by the right. Yeah. But yeah, he gets back up and
Right.
is okay. I failed, but I love that there's a bit in the book that I didn't mention in that video where Sam is trying to figure out, where Frodo went, and he's thinking through. And even though he's not happy with Boromir right now,
Hmm.
um, but he says to himself, he's like, Boromir wouldn't lie. That's not his way. So even in that moment where Boromir has really fallen and failed, and Sam has got a fairly low opinion of it, he's like, no, he wouldn't lie. Tolkien has definitely had a thing against very, very strong thing against falsehoods. Because Faramir later says, I wouldn't snare even an orc with a falsehood,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. I mean, the Lords are extremely, extremely black and white,
Yeah.
where, yeah, lying is wrong. So that was, I thought that was kind of an interesting bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of a parallel there between Boromir. Sam recognized that Boromir would not be a man to tell a lie, and
Yeah.
then Faramir, who's like the pinnacle of virtue, saying a similar thing later on.
Right, right. So with Samwise, do you have a garden? Are you like into that too?
I am very, very much not like Sam
Right. Okay.
in basically every
Only
way.
name. Only name.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Okay.
don't have a garden. I don't like to garden. I don't really work with my hands. I'm in IT, by day and a YouTuber by night.
Cool.
My hands only have calluses because, I work out, which is another thing another way in which I'm not certainly not like Sam.
Yeah, no.
Um,
I don't think you would work
so
out.
I think that our biggest similarity would be that I also like food.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
Yep.
Gotcha. Do you eat all the different Hobbit courses, the breakfast, second breakfast, all that?
No, I managed to keep myself to 3 meals a day with a snack
There
or
you
two.
go. Gotcha. You gotta have a snack in between both, and then maybe a late night one.
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So you're an IT guy. That's what you do by day, and then you put
Yep.
the cape on at night and do your YouTubing.
Yeah, at night, at lunch break, early morning, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't ever sleep. That's kind of my superpower. I write. I try to do YouTube. It's more of a ministry than anything that I try to do it
Yeah.
with. Um, well, cool, man. Okay, so what's your most favorite video you've ever made or that you posted
Oof,
on YouTube?
that's a tough one. Um, in terms of, I think overall quality of the, production quality, music, editing, everything. It might be the video that I did on Theoden late last year.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only video that I had to do multiple takes because I broke down crying in the middle of some of the
Hey, man,
passages that I read.
keep it. Yeah,
Um,
cool, man.
um, but yeah, because just like Theoden's death scene absolutely broke me.
So good.
But yeah, that was also one of the first videos where I'd really where I started incorporating music. I think before that, I really didn't have all that many with music in them. Um, and since then, there's been some decent ones. But yeah, nothing. I don't know. But they don't was I really really liked that one. And
Hmm.
an underappreciated character. Another one that I think Jackson did an excellent job with.
Yeah.
I think I spend probably most of the time talking about Jackson's Theoden because he has more of an arc.
Hmm.
And I do love a good character arc. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, probably that one.
Are you excited for the Rider? The what's the Rohan one? The Riders of Rohan?
War of the Rohirrim.
War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah, not
Nervous a little bit?
really. Not
Yeah.
really. The trailer. So I need to go watch I think it was the Japanese trailer. People were saying it looked better. I want to go see
Hmm.
that or go look that up
Yeah.
because
Why would it look different? I figured it'd just be
I don't know.
dubs and
Well,
that's it.
they may just you know made a different just made a totally different trailer
Maybe so,
because the
yeah.
first like 20 seconds or so of the English trailer were just shots from Peter Jackson's films.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And it's like, remember Lord of the
I think
Rings? You like Lord of the
there's a
Rings.
newer trailer that dropped.
Is there? Oh, okay.
I
'Cause
think
it was
so.
probably 3 weeks ago, maybe that
Hmm.
I first watched the trailer. And then it was all about, what do they name her? Helm Hammerhand's daughter. I think they name her
Hella?
Hera. I
Hera?
think it's Hera. Yeah.
Hera.
Um,
Sounds about
and
right.
it seemed very much like your typical 2019-ish I am woman hear me roar type of
Right.
character, which
Right.
isn't necessarily bad.
Right. I mean, how did
I
they do
agree.
Eowyn? I think Eowyn's perfect. How
Yeah.
she was like, I'm
Um,
gonna fight, and everybody's like, dude,
yeah.
calm down. You can help elsewhere. And she's like, all right, cool. I love that
Well,
part. And then she, kills the Witch King. That's so good.
yeah.
Dang.
So it seemed like they played up that aspect of it a lot,
Mhm.
and it was like, well, this could work, but we'll have to see. You know, women with women who don't want to who are kept from fighting and want to go into battle and have an attitude, obviously that can work.
Mhm.
There have been, you got AOM, like you said, who, she has it out with Aragorn in the books, especially in the movies too, I
Mhm.
think a little bit, but um, you know, what does he say to her? He says something like, you've got a job to do, your role is not without, with honor. And she's like, oh, your job is to be ready for when the men return. And she says something like, when the warriors have no need of the house, then I have leave to be burned with it or something. She's not happy.
Yeah.
And
What an epic
her,
line
I can't
too.
remember right. Oh yeah, she's
Dang.
she's got a good tongue on her.
Yeah.
And then you got like Katara at I don't know if you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I
Um,
haven't seen the whole thing,
okay.
and I commented on your video, and then someone commented back, and they were like, "Dude, you have to watch it," because I haven't. I've seen maybe
Yeah.
the first like 5 or 6 episodes, and
Okay.
now I got to figure out how to watch it. I don't know if Crunchyroll's worth it or is it's on Amazon, I
I don't
think.
think it's on Crunchyroll.
Is it not?
'Cause it's not anime. It's an American animated show.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, I believe.
Okay.
But honestly, I own it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray, I think. Is it up there? Yeah, there it is.
Cool.
It's a couple spaces over from the Pacific. Um, but yeah, it's worth buying, you know.
Yeah.
It's one of those series where, yeah, it's like, yeah, I want to own this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And I don't know, how old are your kids?
6, 3, and 10 months old. So
Okay,
not
nice.
quite there. Almost. We're getting
Yeah,
there.
as your oldest will be ready for it in a year or two.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. But one of the characters, a couple of the characters in there, they're girls. They want to fight. That's what
Hmm.
their friends are doing. That's what they're trying. And they get held back and they got an attitude. But there's so much more to their characters where, um, it's and that's all you. That's what you need. You need some depth of the character, something more than just I want to fight, let me fight, because that's just not very interesting. It's
Right.
been done a
Right.
thousand times for one thing,
Yeah.
and it's just one dimensional and boring because it's
Yeah.
utterly predictable.
Right. Right.
But
So
I don't want to prejudge the film though. I'm
no, yeah. So
planning to go
how
see
would
it and check it out. Yeah.
I love fan fiction really. So how would you write a really really solid female character then?
Mm. Um, Man, I am not a writer. I'll tell you that much.
You write all your scripts, don't you?
I don't create. I analyze. This is something I think don't people who realize.
Ah, okay.
So
Okay.
I am, I don't know if you know like the left brain, right brain stuff. Like left brain is, analytical, right brain is creative. I'm extremely left-brained.
Okay.
I'm not a very creative person. Um, I do write all my scripts, yes, but it's much easier for me anyway to analyze a character to pick apart their arc and see where the meaning comes from, why one event leads to another, than it
Hmm.
is for me to, create something.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if I'm going to write a female character, we've got lots of templates to go off of. Um, so if you want, write someone who's, extremely tough and, kind of, pouty or angry or something, well, she should probably have a soft side. A good example would be Vi from Arcane,
Hmm.
who is this extremely, very much not, stereotypically feminine, but she has an enormous soft spot for her sister, right? Because her sister
Yeah.
is the only thing she has left. Like she's her family. She's kind of her everything. She'll do anything for her.
Yeah.
Um, so it's about achieving, I think in a large part, achieving balance with your character and not just, focusing on their strength. My video about Blue Eye Samurai's protagonist is that, the thumbnail says power cannot be the point. This applies to any protagonist, male or female. Whereas if the whole point of them is look at this, person, look how powerful and strong they are, it's boring, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not interesting for them to just it seems like self-serving and dull.
Mhm.
So yeah, they need to have conflict. Assuming it's an actual protagonist,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Someone like Iroh, or from again Avatar, or Gandalf. doesn't really need to have major conflict, right? People who are
Yeah.
kind of, they're better than that. They're the ones who are very old and full of wisdom.
Those are the
But
people we
naturally,
as the lowly try to become more like them.
yeah,
That's what it is.
exactly, right. There's a place for, paragons in stories as advisors and assistants and stuff like that,
Mm.
dispensers of wisdom. But, if you got a main character, they need to have an arc that's more than just self-actualization. Um, you can achieve self-actualization as part of an arc, but
Mhm.
there needs to be a lot of work that goes into that. Um, just different kind of realizations they need to come to. That's more than just I have, inherent value that, is given to me by me.
Yeah, that's
So,
boring. Okay, so you said work. It kind of sparked my brain. How much work you put in these videos? I've always wondered that. I've been watching you for a while, and like, how much are you working on the back end? Then, obviously the recording and then the editing, I know probably takes the most amount of time.
yeah, I would say writing probably takes more time, honestly. Well, like because if you can count like include the prep time for that,
Yeah.
because if I write, before I write, I have to watch something or play the something. Very rarely can I, write something from memory, right? When I
Yeah.
wrote the video for Boromir, I had to go back and, reread a bunch of passages that had, from the book and go back and watch the scene, a bunch of the scenes from the movies.
Hmm.
Um, or just the one movie for the most part.
Yeah, he
The other
kind
one
of
of the Two Towers.
spoiler, he dies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Sean Bean. Everyone knows
Yeah,
he's gonna
yeah.
die. But but once I actually sit down to write, if I'm on top of things, if I'm writing at a good clip and I'm not having to constantly go check stuff or whatever, I'm not getting distracted, I can write maybe 1,000 words an hour. That's if I have everything outlined and everything ready to go. It's probably more like 500 or 600 words an hour for the most part.
Hmm.
And it takes, so I talk about 200 words per minute. Um, so if I'm writing, 600 to 800 words per hour, which is probably more accurate, that right, for every hour I'm writing 3 or 4 minutes of script. So for a 20-minute video, I'm writing for probably 5 to 7 hours.
Hmm.
Um, plus a few hours of prep time. Then, got to record. That probably takes, the video length plus another fourth or third, just because I've got a lot of, stumble over my own words or whatever. Got to go back
Yeah.
and do another take. Um, then I have to record or edit the audio to get all the right takes in there. That takes probably at least twice the length of the video. And then editing takes, depends on the video, depends on how much A-roll I use, footage of me on camera versus the B-roll of, whatever show or movie or game I'm talking about and
Hmm.
other assorted clips of stuff. But that can take anywhere from an hour. I'll probably get anywhere from like 3 to 7 minutes done.
Hmm.
Um, so a 20-minute video is probably going to take about 4 or 5 hours, maybe less to edit. Again, depending on how much footage I'm pulling from. If I'm not pulling from that much footage,
Yeah.
Boromir, I wasn't pulling from that much footage, so that was pretty quick to edit. And I used a decent bit of A-roll too. That's a large part of the reason why I started appearing on camera back in like December or so of last year. Because I think it was before then, but I made a God of War video that was an hour and 20 minutes long. I was like, all right, I gotta be on camera for this.
No,
This
yeah.
editing's gonna take me forever.
Right.
So if I'm really kind of if I'm pushing it with that, I can get the editing get through editing pretty quickly. But yeah, so that the so total for like a 20-minute video, which is fairly typical for me, um, would probably take 15 or so hours, I would think.
Yeah.
And I can do that in a week or so.
Hmm.
That's what I just typically what I shoot to do.
Dude, that's awesome. That's so cool. So what was your, I guess, most popular video that you were just like, holy cow, that's a lot of views. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
did you
Have
jump into
you have
this
you
kind of
looked? Do you not know? I'm curious. Do you not know
know what?
which my most viewed video
I
is?
feel like I looked it up, but I can't remember what it is now. Just go ahead and tell me.
Okay. So I have a video called "Audiences Hate Bad Writing, Not Strong Women,"
That
and
one, yeah.
yeah,
Okay. That was the
So
one that you got
yep.
some. Yeah, sweet.
Um, I published that video like July last year, mid-July. I think at that time I was uploading on Saturdays like a good little YouTuber. Now I upload on Wednesdays, for the most part, because everyone uploads
Rebel.
on Saturday.
Nice.
Um, but I uploaded it Saturday and it did pretty well. I mean, I remember, usually after the YouTube shows you the click-through rate for a video after the first 2, 3 hours or something.
Hmm.
And usually a video, a video that does decently well, it's got a good thumbnail. I suck at thumbnail design, but good thumbnail, good topic people are interested in. We'll pull in, 6% or so in the first couple hours. That one hit 10. And I went, oh my goodness, I've never seen that before.
Hmm.
But it did pretty well that the first day, went up 9, 10 in the morning, whatever. Did pretty well throughout the day. I'm like, all right, cool. It's doing fine. It's doing good. This is cool. And I had like 25,000 subscribers at the time. And I wake up the next morning. It's Sunday. I don't have the YouTube Studio app on my phone anymore because I would just look at it way too much. Because I'm a numbers guy and I just get
Hmm.
obsessed with the analytics. I still with the
Right,
analytics way
right.
too much. But I pull up the YouTube Studio app and we're like getting ready to go to church. I'm in the bathroom. I pull up the YouTube Studio app. My jaw hits the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had a jaw drop faster, like it's faster or more dramatic than that. I think the number was like 16,000 views in the last 60 minutes,
Hmm.
which was insane. Um, that was absolutely bonkers. I didn't tell my wife. I was like, okay, we're going to mass. We're going to go to church.
Yeah, right. You gotta
I
hold
was
that
like,
back.
I'm going to try to shove that down. We're going to go see Jesus.
Yeah.
And then we get in the car after mass and I give her my phone. I say, open the studio app and look at this. It's just like,
Church was
whoa.
good, but check this out.
And that was insane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I think there were a couple days where I think the channel hit over 500,000 views each day,
Man. Wow.
which is unreal. Right now I get like 20, 30,000 views a day, which is phenomenal. Like I can't possibly complain about that.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
crazy.
that was an absolutely wild ride. So yeah, that was unbelievable. The other one that did something like that to a lesser degree, but I'm much prouder of that video was my very first video on IRO. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen that one. That's
Okay, you've seen that one.
phenomenal.
Yeah. That one, I think I did use music in that one. But I also there was a whole other story with the copyright issues on that one, but so I had to cut a chunk of it out. But yeah, that I published that video something like Tuesday morning or something one day. It was after it was done. I published it the next morning.
Hmm.
And then this was Holy Week. So it was like right at the end of Lent. And so Good Friday, we go to Good Friday service, we come home, and the video had not been doing well. I was basically a Star Wars only channel at that point.
Yeah.
So this video was not doing well at all. It had maybe a couple thousand views. Come back home from Good Friday service, go down to my computer, open up the studio and go, oh my gosh, it's at 3,000 views in the last hour.
Wow.
And that video has continued to go ever since.
Hmm.
I'm so happy,
Yeah.
like people found it, it resonated with people.
Hmm.
That was super cool. That is definitely one of the videos I'm more proud of. I kind of wish I'd made it today because I feel like I feel like I'm a much better writer now than I was then.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah. We kind of
I'm
all,
like
all feel that as you grow and go and do more and more of this, it's like maybe like a year anniversary, you can go back to Iro and revisit him and touch on some things you didn't talk about before. That would be cool.
I did do that. Like I think back in January, I made a second video about him.
Yeah.
And I'll probably make more because he's an amazing character.
Best. He's the best.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you're listening to, please like and share this podcast with your friends and family. Check out our merch where we have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Continue this topic on our Facebook page with other kingdom-minded nerds. Now back to the show.
So I kind of should have started with this, right? But what got you into YouTube to begin with?
Of all things, the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show.
Okay.
So I'm a big Star Wars fan. Again, big nerd, have been all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And as is my wife, she's equally nerdy, if not more so.
That's awesome.
And so we're not huge fans of the prequels because they're just not very well written.
Yeah.
I wish I liked them. I wish I do, but I did like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought he did a very good job with what he had to work with.
For sure.
And so Disney announces he's coming back for a 6-episode miniseries, basically. All right, cool. And we sit down and watch the first episode, and my wife never watched another episode.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, all right, well, that kind of stunk. And that was it. But there's a scene in the first episode that straight up rips off a scene from the game Jedi Fallen Order, which is a Star Wars game that came out a couple years before the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
I've got it on my to be played, so don't ruin too much for me.
Yeah, it's like the opening. It's one of the opening scenes where the Inquisitor, the Sith Inquisitor, the main antagonist, shows up and is interrogating this lineup of detainees, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a very similar scene in the first episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And I watched that scene and went, I've seen this scene before. I've seen it done better.
Right.
you stole this and you made it worse. And so I'm sure I had a YouTube account, but I didn't have an actual channel or anything.
Yeah.
So, made a channel and, I had a mic for we're talking to my friends when we played online games or something. So just use that. I don't even know why I had editing software. That's right. I've experimented with making other YouTube channels in the past. So I had, editing software already.
Yeah.
And I made a video comparing the two scenes. Like, this is why this one good. This one's good. This is why this one sucks. Just the tone of it, the dialogue, the costuming, the setting, etc. And then I made a couple other videos on the show, like breaking down some of the action scenes. I didn't really make much else on the channel, at least nothing that stayed on there. And that was like summer of 2022, like June, I think that year is when that video went out. That was kind of it. It got, a few hundred views between then and like November, maybe. Because I was a channel with like nothing. I had no subscribers. It was literally the first video I'd ever put out.
Yeah.
I made some shorts, got some subscribers, from it, got some subscribers that way. And then in like November of that year, that video started to pick up. It had a couple thousand views. Then it had 4,000 views. Then it had like 8,000. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess, maybe make some more YouTube videos and see what happens. What the heck? This time the channel still had under 100 subscribers. And so I made another video. I don't even remember, what was it? It was something with like, talking about the upcoming Bad Batch season or something, their Star Wars show. And that video didn't do much at all, right? It's got a couple thousand views maybe. But the day I posted it, my very first video started to blow up. And, getting a couple hundred views an hour, which at the time was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And this happened days after my wife quit her job. She worked a part-time job. And then she was about to have our third kid. And so, we had talked about it. She's like, okay, we're in a good enough place financially. You can quit your job. You can be at home full time. You don't have to spend every other weekend away from us. And then, but so within days of her quitting my job or her quitting her job, the channel started to pop off and I made more videos and it kept growing and growing and growing. And it's like, looking back on it, I'm like, I feel like there's a little divine providence there.
For sure.
It's just like, there was like, that timing was spectacularly
man.
couldn't possibly have been better. Just absolutely wonderful. So that's kind of how it started. And then with the Iroh video, why I was the pinnacle of masculinity, that was probably the first the real big shift in what the channel was. Like I said before that, it was pretty much Star Wars. I talked about Star Wars. I still love Star Wars. But that when that video started to pop off, it's like, okay, there's room for discussions about other topics. And that's why, masculinity has become a big point of discussion on the channel, while, why it always will be, because, that's kind of the one thing that I found that I think resonates with people the most. Especially, I'm, the audience is 95% male. And, there's a lot of guys out there, especially on the internet, who, you know, haven't really been taught how to be men, who haven't had great
Yeah.
examples, right?
Yeah.
And, like I said, my dad's my hero. I had a fantastic example in my life. A lot of guys haven't had that.
Yeah.
And, so it's like, yeah, and it's okay to look to fiction
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
see examples of, how men should live. So, that's kind of what I try to do now. That's not the only thing, because I like talking about any story that I think matters, that, people should watch and enjoy. And,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's definitely, kind of the main focus of the channel now.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing I think about stories is that yes, they're fiction, yes, they're make believe, all that kind of stuff, but they teach us more than anything ever could. Is like,
Eh.
you want to be more like this hero you're watching, so like do what he's doing, and that's how you can become more like him, that sort of thing. And
Well,
that's
that's why I
awesome.
go into, talk about, the bravery of Theoden. It's like you can be brave,
Hmm.
right? You can be courageous, you can be selfless, right? You can have hope when there seems to be only despair,
Right.
right? You're not riding into battle against the forces of Mordor, but chances are that what you're facing out is a lot less terrifying.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? You might have to fight some orcs in the
Everyone's got
future.
their own battles. Everyone's fighting their own demons.
Yeah, right.
Every battle you face could look as as big as a mountain troll to you.
Yeah, or a Mumukil.
Yeah.
Um, what's another? Oh, your testimony. That's like the biggest reason why we're talking. You want to share a little bit about your testimony?
So what do you mean by testimony in this case?
So, how did you get to the point of having a personal relationship with Jesus? Like, I know you said your dad
Uh,
probably showed you a lot. Your parents, I'm sure, did. But how did you, Sam, kind of come to know Jesus?
Um, you know, it's a tricky question to answer, because that is a constantly evolving story.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've, been Christian and Catholic my entire life. Born and raised, never fell away from the faith or anything like that. Um, and so it's kind of hard for me to talk about that. I'd probably be one of the people saying to you, I don't have a great testimony. It's just, this
Yeah.
has been my life, my belief this whole time. Um, so let me talk, I guess, talk a little bit about like the struggles I have encountered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there are going to be challenges, in most anyone's faith life. No matter how how long, or um, if you've if you're cradle Christian and everything, like, you're gonna struggle, I would think, at some point with something.
Right. Yeah.
um and you got like Mother Teresa. She's, she kept it a long secret. She calls it the dark night of her soul, where she just felt spiritually empty and dry, but she kept doing what she was doing. She kept praying, she kept serving. And thankfully nothing quite like that on my chart. But I had a period of my life, right around before I got married, and kind of when I was first married, when I suffered with pretty severe scrupulosity, right, which is essentially just distrust in God's mercy,
Yeah.
right, thinking that my little sins, which, not to downplay our own sins, but getting worried about checking the right boxes. Was I doing the right things? Was I
Yeah.
earning my own salvation? And was I gonna was I gonna die, die in the middle of the night and wake up in hell?
Yeah.
Right. And that is ultimately just a lack of trust
Mhm.
in, God's merciful love.
Yeah.
And so that was something, I went through a lot, just struggling day in and day out. I was working like night shift at the time for the most part of it, and that was not helpful because I wasn't sleeping much.
Yeah. No.
And I've always been someone who's like, I don't really need to sleep that much. And as I've gotten older, I've definitely discovered I need to sleep.
Yeah.
um,
It's a struggle I deal with too.
Yeah. It's like, man, if I don't if I just don't sleep, I just get up really early and get all this stuff done.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyhow. But yeah, I think that's been, kind of my biggest spiritual struggle, and is to this day, to some extent too. Just that, you know, I want to, and I know I should, believe in a God who is just but merciful,
Mhm.
right? Who will, it's like, if I say, to our Lord God, thy will be done,
Yeah.
then his will be done.
Mm-hmm.
And, we know, I forget where it is in scripture, but like he does say, God desires salvation for all men. I forget the exact passage or, what the exact wording is. I forget who said it, but, there's basically, people can end their lives in, two ways. You either, you say to God, thy will be done, or God says to you, thy will be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's been like a big struggle where, I am a very, I don't know if you'd call me type A, because I'm not like a super assertive leadership type person. I'm not going to be, I'm not the most commanding presence or whatever, but I'm type A in the sense that I like to be in control,
Mm-hmm.
right? I definitely like to have a plan. I like to stick to that plan. I don't like when my plans get ruined, or, when someone throws something off. That's a big issue for me. And I see that with my 5-year-old too, my oldest kid, where it's like, if he's been planning on something and, soccer gets canceled or whatever, oh, he has the hardest time dealing with it. I'm like, I'm so sorry, buddy. I know that's my genetics.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so when you're that kind of person, you're like, the temptation is, I want to be the one to assure myself of my salvation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do the right things and be in the state of grace. And I want to make sure I'm, that I've checked the boxes that, will score the points that will allow me to get to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how it works. It's not how any of this works,
No.
So yeah, that's kind of that's been like, that was my, my biggest struggle. And that is still to some trouble, to some extent still my struggle, because like I said, this is an ongoing story. It's an ongoing battle for me, where I just want so badly to be in control that it's hard for me to let go, to rely on God's mercy, to throw myself at his feet and say, I'm sorry, Lord, forgive me, Lord, I am I'm a sinful man. And like, that's it's hard. Yeah, it's like I said, it's really, really difficult to let go like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. And I'm not exactly the same way, but I can definitely relate. As I think as a guy, you would rather be in control, and that's one of the hardest things. It's that pride that's, that will be done, like you said. And I love that you said that you've been on a journey, kind of cradle Christian, like you said, like, and I'm similar. I grew up in a Christian home, but that whole journey, I mean, I think if people viewed Christianity more like a journey and not like I'm a Christian, I check that box, I'm just going to go do my own thing now. Man, I think people's lives would be a lot different if they really realized, you're answering the door to a wizard and you're about to go on an adventure. Like that's what Christianity really is.
Yeah.
And when you view it that way, man, it's pretty wild, especially when you kind of see things through spiritual eyes, and kind of like you said, how you had that providence over that one video as soon as your wife quit her job. That's so cool. That story's so cool. I hope you guys remember that forever. I think God was like blessing you for that, because I'm sure there was financial, like, I think we can do it. It's probably going to be tight, but we can do it. And then God was like, I got you. Here you go. So,
honestly, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like I work in IT. I make quite a bit of money. So I'm kind of like, okay, what am I doing with this?
yeah.
Like there, we have a great house right now and everything, and and it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not gonna stop making YouTube because I'm like, oh, I've got enough money, because there's always things, and
Yeah.
but it is one of those things where I'm like, I definitely didn't need this money. We would have been okay, So I'm like, okay, what is my calling here?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with this? With every gift that God gives you like that, the temptation is for me to save it. The harder it was like, well, I mean, for retirement and kids' college eventually, and
Right.
not that those are bad things necessarily, but from to you who much is given, much is expected.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the challenge. That's what I was going to say. Your other point, with and people, they decide, they're Christian, they believe in, the message of the gospel. Something that I definitely struggle to live out, and I'm sure most Christians do. It's like, if you believe this, you need to live differently.
Yeah.
Like, this needs to change your life on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right. This needs to inform basically every decision you make. And that's a very, very difficult call.
Right. But it's worth it, right? It's like, what's
Yeah.
the alternative? Being
Yeah.
selfish, right? Well, the way I look at it, we had a podcast on it, but like, if you're living life and people don't see you like they see a witcher, like when you see a witcher, you're like, that guy's a witcher. I know for a fact he's a witcher. If people see you and don't realize that about you being a Christian, like if they can't just see you and be like, that dude's a Christian. Like that's how we should live is people seeing us and be like, oh dang, that dude's legit. You know, that sort of thing. Two swords, medallion, cat eyes, the whole thing, white hair, all that good stuff.
I haven't actually played or read any of the Witcher stuff.
You know what I'm talking about though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just the way he looks,
Yep.
you know, it's just like,
Yep.
yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to talk about? What else we got here? Legacy. I'm sure legacy is big in your vocabulary. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I'm not just trying to be humble here. I've never thought about that.
Really?
I've not thought about that.
Yeah.
I think I'm too much of like a forward-thinking person where I'm just like, all right, what's the next thing? You know, in terms of like, you know, the channel, what's the next video? You know, I am not like, it just doesn't enter my brain, right? It's not really a point of, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to be humble, be like, oh, you know, I don't really care about the legacy. It's just that I don't think about it. You know, I definitely think about the impact that the channel has,
Yeah.
right? And I want it to have an impact, but you know, I kind of think of well, when you say legacy, you know, my wife is huge into musicals, and I've enjoyed a lot of them as well. But then there's a line from Hamilton where he says, you know, what is the legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see.
Yeah.
And you know, so if I think about, you know, legacy, you know, it definitely would be like my children. Right? It's like I want to plant seeds there that are going to, you know, blossom to, you know, to, you know, give them the chance to be, you know, good, holy people, right? Who know God and love God and serve God and bring others to God. Right. Like that's the legacy I want to leave behind is, you know, wonderful, you know, beautiful, holy children.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, perhaps I should think about that more, but it's definitely not a word that really comes to mind. Like I said, you know, I definitely, you know, the impact that I want the channel to have, you know, bring people to God through, you know, the word, my, you know, words of hopefully wisdom, you know, about, you know, what
For
it means
sure.
to be
Well,
a good
that's one
man.
thing I wanted to bring up is I love that you don't like hound people with God, but you can tell in between every word you're saying, it's all focused on wisdom and it's all biblical stuff. That's actually one of the reasons I started watching your channel. I was like, dude, this, and I could watch a couple videos like this guy's got to be a Christian. I feel it. I just know it. And I did some research and found you, but yeah, man, that's super cool. And it's cool you say seeds because you know, that's what God told us to do is be fruitful and multiply. And that's not just making babies. It's like you said, like planting seeds for trees that we won't ever even be able to see in the future. That's super cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten like comments or something, you know, I'll comment on videos by Trent Horn, who's a Catholic apologist, and people will be like, oh, I didn't, oh, it's like, I had a suspicion you were Christian. Yeah. It's like, I thought so. It's so those are great. I love hearing that where people are like, oh, okay. Yeah. I thought, you know, cause and that's kind of the intent. It's one of those things where I've definitely struggled with a little bit where, you know, I have the desire to want to be more blunt with it, right? You know, to quote scripture directly to, you know, or whatever. And it wouldn't be a bad thing to do that, obviously. But, you know, there simply is, and, you know, this is just, you know, I think admitting reality, you know, there simply is it is a turnoff for people if you start mentioning, you know, the Bible or religion or whatever. They're just like, you know, they don't want to be engaged. And I don't know how many of those people are there. I don't know how many people, you know, would be turned off by that, or other people who, you know, versus people who really need to hear that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I just kind of go, well, you know, I'm going to talk on a playing field that I know that I think, not that I know, that I think, you know, the vast majority or the largest possible swath of people will understand. And so that's why I fell on virtue, right? Because you talk about virtue, you know, you're going, you know, all the way back to like Aristotle. And, you quote Aristotle at people, they're not going to just write you off as, some religious doohickey. And it's not a bad thing to be, to be written off as, some Bible thumper or whatever.
Guilty.
Yeah. Right. Like this is not, I'm not, not a bad thing, but,
Right.
if, there's St. Holy Maria Escriva talks about, sanctification of work, where, you work for the glory of God, right? You do your work that's given to you as best you can for God's glory,
Right.
whatever that work may be. And so that's, something I tried to live out here, where it's okay. I'm not preaching the gospel directly, but I am.
But you are, yeah. You are,
I
for
am,
sure.
I hope, inspiring, people to live for other people. The number of videos where I've quoted, if not directly, very closely, greater love hath no man than this, is quite a few.
Right.
Theoden, Boromir, etc. And so that is, a very, very high truth that, I want to point people towards.
Right.
And, I think that, doing that without, I feel like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't have, I feel like every reason I say, well, like, every reason I could come up to like not talk about faith directly. It's like, well, it's kind of sounds like an excuse, but, I'm also just I do talk about faith directly, that's, on occasion when I feel it's appropriate, basically. We're so used to people shoehorning their beliefs, into their media these days.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people like me are very fed up with, right? Overt political messaging in Hollywood, which is of course all left leaning, right?
Yeah.
And people will say it's not religion. It's religion. It's dogmatic as can be.
It is.
It's right. And so I don't want to be guilty of that.
Right.
Right. Where I do want to, spread the gospel as best I can. And, I will talk about the actual gospel or, the Jesus Christ, if it is truly relevant and natural.
Yeah.
To, whatever thing I'm doing. But yeah, so it's like I'm trying to, engage with people as best I can on this, playing field of analysis of fictional characters and worlds.
Yeah. I think you're doing an excellent job, man. I really do, because
thank you.
Like you're saying, it's not like a channel. This is the gospel. It's like you're doing excellent videos, and you're speaking so much positivity and wisdom. Wisdom's the biggest thing, I think. And people are seeing that, and they obviously like it. I mean, you've got a ton of subscribers, so people are loving that. And I know for a fact there's people looking into you like, what is this guy really like? He's a Christian? Maybe I should look into this a little bit. And I feel like more and more people are looking into it. And it's funny because I don't know why I got into this of like, I can't not see nerdy stuff and Christian stuff. They go perfectly together for me. I don't know why. And that's why I created this. It started as just a Bible study of like, let's talk about Superman and how he's, kind of like Jesus and all this other stuff. And a friend at church had a studio, and he was like, hey, do you want to record a podcast? And I was like, I mean, sure, I guess. And just one thing led to another. And now I'm here talking to you. Nice. So it's pretty cool, man.
How long have you been doing that?
A year. Just about a year. But nice. I think, like you said, like it's so much Jesus and gospel and so much nerdy stuff that honestly, I don't think YouTube knows what to do with me. So I'm like just under 500 subscribers, and I'm like, I don't understand. I'm still doing it as excellent as I possibly can for God's glory, not looking in it for money. And it's been really fun. I know that much. And I study constantly. So that's one huge blessing, is constantly studying and writing. And we've gotten a devotional that we wrote, which is really fun.
Nice.
Writing other books as well. So like I said, I don't sleep, even though I totally should.
I think the best part of, when you're talking about nerdy stuff and relating it to Christianity, and again, even, more generally broadly, just being a good man, right? Living a virtuous life, is that it makes me intentional when I engage with some sort of media, right? Whether I'm,
Yes.
watching a show,
Yes.
playing a game, whatever, I'm looking at it from a different lens, right? I'm looking at it like, how can I, examine the themes in here and then, elucidate the meaning from them and communicate that to my viewers, right? And you can do that with so many things,
Anything,
right? And that's,
really. Yeah.
that's why, my most recent video that's doing very well, or it's like kids deserve good stories too.
Yeah.
Where like that came out of this very passionate place in my heart where, I'm saying, no, these things matter, right? If we're just going, who cares? It's for kids. Let them, watch the thing for an hour and a half. They won't remember it. It's no,
No, they do.
no, like intentionality is something that is incredibly important, and something that, is a huge struggle in the internet age,
Right.
where, it is all too easy to get lost on Twitter or YouTube or wherever. And so, yeah, it makes me, be a little bit more, at least a little bit more intentional about the content that I consume, where, I'm thinking, all right, how can I, can I make a video about this? Is this worth my time?
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, I think. Is it worth your time? Because it's doing something to you. Stories do stuff to you. You and I both know this to our core, especially with kid stuff, because I always, if my kids are like, a lot of times my wife will put on the YouTubes, just, let them watch whatever. It's fine, whatever. And I come in there, I'm like, turn it off. What are you guys doing? Come on, let's go play. But she just does it because she's alone in the house with 3 kids. She's got to get something done. So she's like, y'all, I got to go do laundry. Figure it out. But nothing against my wife at all. But like you said, stories matter. And the movie Inside Out, I haven't seen the second one, but the first one was so good for my daughter Harley because she's so emotional. And I mean, like, I call them the horses. I'm always like, rein in the horses, kiddo, rein in the horses. Because she's like, I don't know why I'm crying so much. It's like, I don't know. But she saw that and she's like, do I have those in me? I'm like, kinda. You kind of do. And it's just a cool way to think about how your emotions can control you, or you can control them, kind of thing. Still something we're working on and learning. But and how Lord of the Rings shaped me tremendously. That and Zelda's a big one for me, especially Ocarina of Time. I'm playing that right now, doing a live stream. It's been super fun, of like dissecting anywhere I run or fight or whatever. I'm like, okay, pause it. I'm dissecting it, talking about it. And I'm doing terrible because I'm trying to like analyze and talk about it. So I'm like playing while I'm talking. I'm like, hang on, I got to pause it. I got to talk about this because I can't play at the same time. Both sides of my brain are working. But it's been really, really fun. But Ocarina of Time has taught me a lot of being the selfless hero, being quiet, just doing whatever I need to get the job done, that sort of thing.
Okay. So I never played Ocarina. I didn't really have any gaming system growing up. We had a computer.
Yeah.
I played Backyard Baseball and Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Nice.
And so the only Zelda game I've played to date is Breath of the Wild.
It's good. It's a good one.
But
Tears of the Kingdom I don't think was as good.
No.
Breath of the Wild was pretty solid.
Yeah, I definitely thought about that, where Link's the the voiceless hero, right? Where he doesn't say anything, and putting aside the fact that they may just because they didn't want to pay for the voice talent, but I think it's been the choice for Link. Like, has he ever been voiced?
No. Well, the theme was his name was Link because he is the link to the player, so he is the player in the game. So his voice is the player's voice, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was never like they didn't want to have a voice actor or to have dialogue. It's just like, no, you are Link.
Yeah.
So
I think about that, and like the first Halo game, and a similar sort of vibe. I mean, Master Chief is voiced to some extent, but he's mostly a silent protagonist. And they both have this, especially Breath of the Wild. I just remember the first moments of stepping out of the tomb that you wake up in, out into the world.
So stinking cool.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
And it evokes this sense of wonder and awe that's, again, not dissimilar from, when you first land on the ring and you're looking at this, you know, like, wait a minute, what is this? What's going on? But you can't get lost in it, but you still want to appreciate it.
Right.
You know, and so kind of, Breath of the Wild, exploring this incredible vast world with, you know, a Korok seed under every freaking
Oh,
rock.
I didn't even bother. The little turds. Nope. Ain't doing it.
I'm not sure how many of those I found. Just sometimes be like, what's up this hill? It's a Korok seed, of course it is.
Dang it.
And yeah. But yeah, it was a really cool game. And in a way, I'm not sure how long it took me to play to beat it, 20 almost 30 hours maybe, and like I almost felt like I rushed it. And I spent a decent amount of time just exploring and traveling through the world. I don't know. I've wanted to kind of make a video about it for a while because I did really enjoy it, and there's a lot to it, but almost, you know, but there's also, you know, like, you know, I usually do character analyses for the most part, you know, or a lot of them, and you know, talking about Link is like the, you know, the silent hero kind of was kind of just struck with wonder and awe at like the size of his duty. There's something there, but I haven't put it to words yet.
You'll get it. That'd be a really good video. That'd be cool. I've got notes if you want them, because I've written a little bit about him in the devotional, especially. But yeah, silent hero. He's something. Just the protector of Hyrule and Zelda and all that. It's good stuff. It's cool. Well, you getting tired yet? Anything else you want to talk about?
I'll probably go hang out with my wife. That's cool, you know, for a little bit. And
copy that.
But
Same
yeah,
here.
I mean, this is awesome, man. Had a great time, and yeah, let's keep in touch.
For sure. Yeah, you got my email. If you want, honestly, if you want my cell phone, I'll email it to you. We can text if you want. But
cool.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have to do it again. Maybe do a collab or something like that.
For sure.
Anything else you want to say to the peoples?
No, thanks for watching, listening. God bless.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man. Have a good night. See ya.
You too. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Nerds in Christ podcast. Our goal is always to give glory and honor to God in all things and share the love and light of Christ everywhere.